Our guest on Just Talking is Luke Herman, founder of the Crafty Brewing Company, specializing in brewing, management, and fundraising. How's it going, Luke?
Very good. How are you?
Wow, I like that shot right there.
Oh, that's making me very, very thirsty. That's all I can say is, where's my beer?
I know, right? I mean, it's only 10 o'clock here, and I usually have a rule that, I can't start cracking a beer until it's 12 o'clock. What's your thought on that? I mean, should people just be drinking beer anytime they want?
Well, there's always time for a beer. I mean, before breakfast is questionable, but thankfully for me here, it's gone 6 now, so I think it's time.
Okay, fair enough. So you definitely do not want to have a beer and milk cereal with your drink. Okay,
tell that to my husband, who is English and drinks before breakfast.
Nice. Well, there's actually a thing. Back in the day, in medieval times, beer was a lot safer than water. So when you mash in, you soak the grains in liquor. And then you do the first runoff. It's very sugary, high in gravity. And that first bit they split that off from the second part, which was less concentrated with sugar. They would ferment that, and that would be the kids' beer or the breakfast beer.
Well, you know what? We might as well jump on into it, because I think that's interesting. I never actually knew that about the medieval era, but I know here in the U.S., I was pretty alarmed by this, because studies show that alcohol consumption is soaring during the pandemic, right? Because, and here in the U.S., since the 1990s, our guidelines for the U.S. dietary list gets updated every 5 years. And they literally just said, Luke, that a single drink is defined by 12 ounces, right? For a beer. Mm-hmm. They're saying that only men and women should have a beer daily, just one drink.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? I thought that was kind of crazy, because I mean, I'm a young guy. I can pound down a briefcase and 18 rack like no problem. I mean, is that really a health concern moving forward, especially since you just told me now that, during the medieval era, the beer? Really?
Let's go back in time. Well, the thing is, I mean, that's a 12. They specified the size in terms of volume, but they didn't sound like they specified the alcohol content of that beer. I mean, as well, I think, moderation and everything's about a balanced diet. You can still enjoy a beer and have a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, I feel you, because, I've been noticing this weird craze of this new boozing lifestyle, especially amongst the millennials. There's this idea of this low calorie drinks that are getting involved, more of the seltzer drinks. Do you see that as being the new future of the new decade when it becomes to your drinking lifestyle?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, there was a market report released before lockdown, I should probably add. Things may have changed since then. But before lockdown, low and no alcohol beers, it was a tiny sector in the whole beer trade, beer sector. It's the smallest part, but it's the fastest growing sector, which is interesting.
Really? So you're talking about the 50-calorie beers? Because I also know that there's this new crazy fad, which I was actually really surprised about, because my beloved company that I always drink, Budweiser, they just partnership up with NBA star Dwayne Wade. I know they're both cringing looking at me right now. I know, don't judge me too hard, okay? It's the American proud beer, okay? But they partnered up with Dwayne Wade, and they created a 50-calorie zero alcohol beer. I mean, is that the first time I heard about that was from a Lamb of God vocalist, Randy Blythe, who's become sober for 4 years now. And I never understood the craze for drinking a beer that has no alcohol in it. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, it's also interesting that they teamed up with a sports guy as well. I think the thing is with beer, it's not just about the alcohol. Obviously, it's about the flavor, but within that glass, that is 95% water. So you don't just have your bog standard basic hydrate you H2O. You have supersonic mineral water. So actually it could be extremely hydrating, a 0% alcohol beer.
Would your mates though agree with you though that it's all about the flavor and not getting drunk? I mean, I feel like that's the only way we drink beer. I mean, I personally, when I thought about the idea of zero alcohol beer, it kind of reminded me of that old school argument about flavored cigarettes, right? I mean, where they used to say, oh, you're making the flavored vaping, so it's going to attract the youth. So then when they like these little fruity cherry blossoms or whatever the hell they're calling it, you know, they'll be smoking it and then they might want to try a cigarette later on. I mean, are these zero alcohol beers still going to be regulated as being like, I know in the UK it's 18 years old, right?
Yeah. That is an interesting point. I think the good thing though about the drinking culture over here anyway, we can actually go to the pub at the age of 16 with our parents. And so we're introduced to it at a younger age. We can go on our own at 18 and enjoy a beer, but it's a steady curve. So we respect it already by the time we can come to it.
Well, Marissa, what's your thoughts on this? I know Lilac, when she starts to get, you know, let's say 16 to 18, would you be cool with her drinking zero alcohol beer?
When Lilac turns 16, I am shooting her to England to be an adult. That way I don't have to deal with it. But no,
are we more mature than Americans?
I'm a firm believer. I know, right? I'm a firm believer that here in America, if you are 18 and you can fight a war and kill someone, you should be able to have a beer. I'm a firm believer in that. That really ticks me.
I agree, and I think over here, you know, we can ride a motorbike. It's effectively being in charge of a rocket with handlebars. In charge of a 2-ton car going at 80 miles an hour down the road. I mean, I think you should, if you can handle that, you can probably handle a beer.
Okay.
Bravo.
I definitely think that's interesting because, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said before, I don't see the fad of drinking a zero alcohol beer. And I guess that's going to be something that we're going to find out in the future because, I mean, I never saw White Claws blowing up. I mean, is that kind of something?
My White Claws, my Trulies, the best drink ever, Chris.
I mean, is that a big thing in the UK? Because it really feels like here in America, the seltzer drinks are just blowing up like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps with the drivers. I mean, where we are, Crafty Brewing Company is based on the Surrey-Sussex border. So it's in the Surrey Hills, a lot of countryside. So there's a lot of destination pubs, we call them, that might not necessarily be so connected with public transport and things like that. So if people are in their cars and there's a low or no alcohol beer available on the bar, then that's a good thing because they can enjoy one too.
Yeah, totally. And I know I've never actually been to the United Kingdom just yet. I can't wait to go across the pond, but I know Marissa has. And a lot of times when we go to discuss about the United Kingdom, Marissa, you're always telling me that there's not so much of this crafty brew that you see in the pubs.
Okay, so this is my biggest pet peeve because I love a crafty beer. Like I like to find out what's in the region, a new taste. When I was in England, whether I was in London or Blackpool, all they had were like the same 6 beers: Boddingtons, Newcastle, some cider, Guinness, Budweiser. And I was like, where are the craft beers? Like, where are you guys? Because I went to a lot of pubs, like not just one. A lot. It was all standard.
All research, of course.
Of course.
Well, I mean, I don't know when that was, but distribution's always a thing. And there's been a lot popping up now. There's over 2,000 breweries in the UK now, which is pretty good going. So we got this thing with old pub companies. They own a lot of estates. They're called tied estates, so they're harder to get into. But there's a good thing now called SEBA. They have actually spoken to them. They've lobbied those big pub companies to allow smaller brewers like ourselves to gain access to those bars, at least one tap on those bars. So they do a lot of good work actually, and especially with sort of small brewers relief and things like that.
Well, how are you surviving during these unprecedented times? Because I know the coronavirus is definitely affected a lot of people. It's testing work relationships, like Chris Tuff told us like a couple of weeks ago. It's testing your work relationship. It's probably testing your family relationship, because I know you're a new father now. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
And how are you guys moving forward? Because I thought I just heard this morning that Boris Johnson just announced that you guys are going to continue with the lockdown. Am I hearing that correctly?
Up north, yeah, they're doing that up north. We're thankfully not affected by that down here. But yes, yeah, they're going with the flow, working with the data that's coming through.
Well, do you have a backup plan if it does come down
Yeah,
south?
so basically, what happened at the beginning, we have cask ale. We specialize in cask. We do have keg and bottle, of course, but cask is our main thing. It's about 80%. So when we went to lockdown, we had 40,000 pints in cask. Now that's not ideal because best before on a keg is say 6 months. Best before on a bottle is 12. Cask is only 10 weeks. And when we get it out into wholesale, into trade, they want a few weeks so they can sell it on, or at least when we take it straight to pubs, they want a few weeks on it as well so they can rotate. But so that was a big worry. So what we had to do, we had to figure out a way to deal with this. So we were actually able to decant, thankfully, gently under CO2, so it never touched the air. Beer and air aren't friends. So we're able to bottle that and sell it online. And so now we've got a huge online business, which we never had before, which is brilliant. We've come out of this with a new string to our bow. Pubs are back open, and but yet we're still there with an online presence. So that's how we survived.
Are you only able to ship your product out, let's say, just locally, or are you able to ship it anywhere around the world?
So local, we've got a sort of a 30-mile radius around the brewery, which we deliver to personally. Then if you go further across the UK, that's when we work with wholesalers and distributors. And then further afield, like where you guys are, we've got our courier company who take online orders. So we've already sent some to the States over the last couple of months, which is cool. But then wider distribution in the States, that's a case of talking to, you guys have wholesalers and distributors out there as well. Yeah. So that's your main system. So we would have to talk to one of those guys for general distribution. But in the meantime, straight to the door.
I think that's fascinating, but
I want some.
Yeah, but I was also.
All I know is I want some of your beer.
But I was also reading that there's, these startup companies that want to get into the brewing lifestyle, especially in the United Kingdom. I guess they're getting hurt now by this new tax hike that's happening. What's going on with this, Luke?
Right. So basically, this was SEBA that did this. So originally, there was the big boys with complete blanket ownership on the market. Now, small brewers relief is what it's called. Just put it in perspective, the UK pays a hell of a lot of duty, beer duty, alcohol tax. For smaller brewers, people that brew 500,000 litres or less every year, there's a 50% discount on that tax. Now, what the government's just announced this week is that they're reducing that threshold from 500,000 litres to 200,000 litres. So they've cut it by 3/5. So that slams us, to be honest with you. That slams small brewers. And it's not a good thing. There's no two ways about it.
Explain more, because I'm not, just because I'm not as business savvy as you are, especially in the brewing industry.
Yeah.
What kind of effect can that have for your company, let's say within a 6-mile trial?
Right. Okay. So last year we brewed 250,000 litres. So we were happy with that. We knew we were going to go into this year, probably brew a bit more. I mean, COVID to one side, but we were going to go up on a curve. We had set our business plan. We had set our staffing plan, our brewing and production costs set for a few years. So we didn't expect to suddenly go into this year and then have our taxes double effectively, with no change on margin. Ingredients don't get cheaper, so nothing else gets cheaper. But this is where we have to innovate. And so this is where, coming out of COVID with an online store, we can now ramp up our delivery direct to consumer and realize slightly greater margins to offset the problem. But the problem that it's coming in 2022, so we've still got time to campaign. So we're clubbing together with some local breweries around here, and we're going to try and sort of just explain that it's not ideal to introduce this.
No, I feel you. I mean, the big thing that you just mentioned. Yeah, the biggest thing you just mentioned right now, Luke, is that you've been talking locally. But I mean, to me, as I'm hearing this, it sounds like it's a land grab from mainstream breweries to get a reduced tax cost on them. Do you view it that way?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. So we're always up against the multinationals. For example, we've recently learned that one particular multinational, which everybody will know, is offering pubs 5 free kegs of lager if they just keep their lager going. That's 5 kegs per month. That's the equivalent of £1,000 a month they're just going to give to that pub. That's pretty heavy going.
Yeah,
the beer to them is just a commodity. With us, it's handcrafted, so it's a bit more expensive.
Yeah, because I saw that there's 88% of the UK's breweries are stuck under 5,000 hectoliters. So that means about 4,260 US barrels a year. This kind of sounds like bad news for craft beer entrepreneurs, especially what you just stated right now.
That's absolutely right. So I think a lot of people will probably just be planning on staying just under that margin, one or two people, and not really look to develop. We're already in that category, unfortunately. As I say, we did sort of 2,500. We're probably going to do 5,000 this year. So we were heading that way, but we weren't suddenly all of a sudden there, But so it just changes everything, really. It changes how so many people are looking at their lives and their plans, and it's just one more thing to deal with after COVID. It's really badly timed.
Yeah, no, I feel you. That's so crazy, especially since, I bet there's a lot of listeners right now listening to you and they're going, I kind of want to be like Luke right now. I kind of want to start up my own brewing company. And how did that all get started?
Yeah, so it actually started when I was at uni. My mum bought me a homebrew kit for my birthday. And so I was just literally 25-liter little plastic.
So not a tattoo gun kit or anything. That seems like a United States thing. So you get a brewing kit. Okay, now I know exactly what the United Kingdom's doing. Okay, go on.
Nice. So we were, it was just bubbling away in the bottom of the bedroom, and I thought it was quite cool. Wanted to get a bit more understanding of what it was doing. I mean, I was doing a sort of science-based degree anyway, so I was just wanting to learn a bit more about it. And it's actually really cool. There's just 4 ingredients in beer: water, barley, hops, yeast. But there's so many different varieties out there. I mean, unlimited varieties of yeast, 400 different types of hops. So the way you can use those things and create different chemical compounds, taste, is really interesting. I was lucky to have a homebrew shop at the end of the road. My friends didn't mind. Plenty of beer to try. And it just went from there. It just built up and up and up. I started with a 100-liter kit, then moved to 1,000, then 2,000 liters, and now these are 5,000 liters.
I think you went a little all out now. I think
that's
amazing.
Yeah, got a bit carried away there.
And you know what I think is really fascinating about this is I know where I'm at in Southern California, I'm right next to a college called Cal Poly Pomona, and they actually have classes where I have a few buddies that actually took brewing classes. And cool. Do you guys have that out in the United Kingdom? Because
not at uni per se, but there are specific brewing courses that you can do, but it's kind of after your general education. It's like an extracurricular thing that you might want to do for interest. Right. But it's not. I don't think it's like that.
Well, the reason I ask is I think it's kind of fascinating because what can you learn? Is like, let's say I'm a newbie, I've never done it. What is something that you get that's enriching for you when you start brewing beer?
That's the cool thing about a brewery. It's literally like a capsule of everything you might need later in life. It's marketing, it's sales, it's business management, it's staff management, it's engineering to a large degree, it's chemistry, it's biology when the yeast comes in, logistics, it's printing, it's a whole, it's everything. It's from start to finish and uses so many different types of disciplines. So you can go into it as a jack of all trades and come out as a master of all.
I mean, Marissa, thoughts? I mean, would you do anything like this? I mean,
oh my God, yeah. No, I'd love to be able to homebrew beer, but I have no patience. So I just want to buy a beer I love and then just have it. Like that's my type of personality.
But you say you're not patient, but wouldn't you grow a marijuana tree in your backyard or something? I mean, don't you have to be patient to wait for it to grow on the ground?
My husband grew those and it was horrible weed. And I told him, just buy it at the weed shop. You know it's going to be good.
So I guess if you're learning anything in the United States, I guess we should probably kick back from the weed and we should probably start brewing our own beer. I think that's pretty fascinating.
Never.
But I know you're a new dad, and I think, with the laws, I mean, should they be lifted to the age of 21 in the UK? But I mean, you were kind of saying earlier that your thoughts were,
I think we're all right. I mean, if that happened, I think I would be worried that it was suddenly being put on a pedestal and something to quickly go and try once you're allowed to. I quite prefer the steady growth curve to introduce them to it and respect it a bit more. I mean, you know, overindulgence exists, but it's about respect, balance, flavor, enjoyment. So no, I think 18's all right.
I mean, so it sounds like the United Kingdom, they're drinking responsibly, so which is a good thing. But how are you guys handling the coronavirus? Because I know there's a lot of footage out here in Southern California. You just look at the shores, the beaches. I mean, 1 out of 40 people aren't wearing masks. I mean, do you feel safe in the United Kingdom? Because we don't get much press, it feels like, when we see things coming out of your way.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, I've not actually been to the beach.
I'm not sure what that means, Luke. I mean, you said appreciate it. Are you concerned right now? I mean, what's going on?
No, I mean, I always think that news people could offer a bit more good news, but anyway, they like to play on the fear. I mean, who knows if that photo of the beach, I saw it too, and I thought, well, really? But then I realized, hang on, that's a beach and they're on a cliff, they're looking down. So the angle of the lens would probably look like there's more people. But to be fair, they probably shouldn't have been there at all. So yeah, no, it's not a good thing. I think people should calm down a little bit. I mean, we're lucky where we are because we're not in a central city location. So the pubs here have gardens and they have car parks and it's easy to socially distance here where we are. And I'm sure that, you know, pubs in London, you know, after a few drinks, people get more friendly. So I imagine it is probably quite difficult, but, you know, I hope people aren't so crazy to go out and just, you know, start kissing each other and spreading this thing.
Well, let's have some fun with this. I mean, who's being the biggest wanker out of all of them? Is it the United States or is it the United Kingdom? Who's being the biggest?
I don't know. There's more of you.
Come on.
I'm going to say it's the U.S. We are horrible.
Are we horrible? I mean, if we have a small centralized group, I mean, is the United Kingdom acting a bit rowdy? I mean,
yeah, well, they've obviously not been behaving up north.
So that's why. Wow, this sounds like a Game of Thrones kind of a lifestyle. Battle of the North, winter is coming.
That's it.
That is so funny. But I wanted to spend some time because I know we got some artwork of some of the beer that you have at the Crafty Brewing Company, which I think is really fascinating. And I'm going to turn off my video so hopefully it doesn't cut off for people. But, you know, Luke, you were super cool enough and you actually given a promo code for all the CCS listeners out there that want to pick up a Crafty Brewing drink. The promo code is Chris Collins Show and you'll get 10% off your promo code, which I think is super groovy. And I know Marissa hates me for this question, but what I would say is, which drink out of all of these tastes the closest to Budweiser?
Unbelievable. None of them. No,
Thank you.
Hey, that's a fair answer. I mean, I'm a basic white girl. Okay, so let's say, what about Heineken? What about Heineken?
All right, Arctic Fox. You should try
Arctic Fox. Okay, because I know my brother's huge into the Indian Pale Ale kind of game, that IPA lifestyle. That's a big thing here out in Claremont, California. Is that something the UK's like to drink a lot? I mean, or is that something
I think so. Thing? Yeah, no. I think we definitely share a bit of that. So Laughing Wolf, American Pale Ale, but also the Hop Tipple there, IPA. That one, best IPA in London and the Southeast, actually.
Really?
Cheeky plug.
Well, hey, I mean, I guess I'm gonna have to suck it up. I'm kind of that guy that hates that like lingering taste. What is that ingredient from IPA that you get that sort of? That'll be
the hops. That's all the resinous in the hops. So yeah, a bit too much of that probably. Try a slightly lower ABV maybe.
Gotcha.
So lower alcohol means less malt, which means I can use less hops to keep it good. So
that is very fascinating. Well, I can't wait to pick one up and get some for the rest of my Chris Collins Show family. And you know what, Luke, I think you have been fabulous. And for all the listeners out there listening to Luke Herman, the founder of the Crafty Brewing Company, where can they follow the company on social media?
At Crafty Brewing on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's all there.
That's super groovy. And it's the same thing with the website, right?
Yeah, that's it. craftybrewing.co.uk.
And that's what I'm talking about. And you know what? I want to thank again Luke Herman for joining Just Talking. And listeners, don't forget to use Chris Collins Show when you order the UK's finest beer from the Crafty Brewing Company to receive 10% off discount. Luke, thank you again for joining the Chris Collins Show.
Been a pleasure. Thank you both.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye. Have a good day.
Yes, peace.
Bye.